Hello and welcome to the Lady Stairs Knits podcast. I thank you for clicking on this video and I hope that you enjoy seeing the things that I've been making over the past, I think it's been about a month since I've recorded, maybe more. Because my last video, it took me a bit of time to edit and then upload. I've scooched in closer than I have been before, so hopefully you can get a really good look at everything, and I am dodging the sun. So I hope that I can keep my eyes open. And yeah, it's a beautiful day here in Edinburgh. It's the second to last day of the festival, so you might hear some music. It's really loud in my flat. There's been a busker like 20 meters away from where I live. I'm on the 6th floor, but the noise really carries, who's been playing one song over and over again all month. And now, I would say that I'm tired of it, although he's really good. I've got two finished objects to show you. The first of them is a sweater that I have been knitting for months and months and months, and I am pretty excited to show you. Okay, so here it is. It's the Harlow sweater. You can see my window pane, sunlight. The Harlow sweater by Caidree Knits, and I made it out of Spin Cycle, the worsted weight one, and a hobby alpaca lace weight marled together. And the colors are perfect. They're exactly what I wanted. And I ended up reditting the front of this 3 times to get the right sort of stripe fade. The back looks like this. It's sort of a similar color position from the front and the back. I didn't do that. I didn't like put effort into having that be the case, but I did have 2 skeins of one of the Spin Cycle colors that both had that orange, and I decided to start them at roughly the same time. So, and then I just knit through the whole skein on the front and the back. So that's why it ends up sort of looking like that. The 2 colors that I used of the Spin Cycle were Nostalgia, which is this darker color. I think like this is all Nostalgia, and then Rosy Maple, which is like lighter, but it also does have some of that dark pink and a little bit of yellow and orange. I did my nails, they're cute. So what modifications did I make? I'll tell you all about the jumper because this is like one of the last times you'll see it unless I'm wearing it. You cast on with this I-cord and you knit down the back, and then you knit these panels that come sort of over the front. You shape the neckline, and then you're instructed to join in the round and knit the body. However, I knit the body flat because I really liked the depth of stripe I was getting on the Spin Cycle at this number of stitches. Oh, my cat's behind me. And I knew that if I joined in the round, the stripes would be half as thick. I know that they're not all the same thickness, but I do think it's quite cohesive. You can come and sit on my lap if you'd like. Come on. Here, I'll show you to the people. Here he is. So this was a really big money investment, but also time investment. I reknit a lot of it. I dedicated a lot of time to making it just right. And I'm not that happy with the outcome. I'm gonna put it down to it needing to be blocked. It's a superwash yarn. It's knitted, oh God, Fergus, his claws are in my leg. Oof, hey, okay. I think it's knit at an appropriate gauge, but it's quite heavy and like bunchy, so I think that you'll get a lot more drape when it's blocked. However, I don't have blocking mats here, so I'll just wait until I go back to Philadelphia and in about a month or two, and then I'll block it there and I will update you. I think part of it might be that this is the only non-lace drop shoulder jumper I've ever knitted. I heard, I don't know, many years ago I think, I used to love the Dunder Knit podcast, and she stopped recording those I think in the last one was in 2020. But I loved her podcast and I was always avidly awaiting the next one. And I think that she had mentioned that drop shoulders aren't the best for larger bust sizes. And I have a big bust. So I kind of never made one until this summer. And now I've made two. And I don't know, we'll see. I think it really needs a block. It seems like there's like bunching under the arms. Another weird thing about the pattern is there's no stitches cast on for the underarm. I don't know if that could have contributed to the bunching feel. I did a Kitchener, such a satisfying Kitchener stitch to join the two sides of the body. And I didn't do any decreases on the sleeve. And I did modify the neckline to be smaller because it looked really big in all of the pictures on the pattern page and in a lot of the project pages as well, and I didn't want it to be such a big neckline. A jumper that I knit as a pre-knit for Teddy's Knit Garden was also like quite an oversized jumper, and the neckline has just like stretched and stretched and stretched, and now it's fine because it has a long rib, but the actual like neckline is like here. And I think that that just looks a little bit schlubby on me in that particular jumper. So yeah, that's why I wanted to make the neckline smaller. I'm happy with the way it turned out. I had so many ends, but they're all woven in now. I really like the yarns, and I just hope that it will fit a bit better after blocking. It's also quite warm here, so that's why I'm not wearing it, because I'm hot just in this t-shirt, so I would be sweating all over the jumper. But it's pretty nice. I don't know. I wish that I liked it more, but I think blocking is gonna make a really big difference. Like give it a good pin so it actually has some drape in the shoulders and all of that stuff. So I'll show you again once it's blocked. I do love the colors though. Okay. My next finished object is a pair of socks. Oops. Here they are. So these are the Painting Honeycomb socks by Stephen West. I made them out of, the blue is by Woolly Mammoth Fiber, and the purple is from John Arbin Exmoor Sock in the color Bluth. I don't know what the Woolly Mammoth color is, but I don't think she repeats her colorways. I gotta scooch to the side. The sun is really in my eyes. Can I scooch you to the side? Did that work? That worked. Okay. In the color Bluth for the purple. And they're done. I've been doing a video series of knitting through the 2023 year of socks, and it's going all right. I'm pretty behind, but I don't really care. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I do kind of wish that there was a bit more, I don't know, variety in like construction. They're all like socks with some sort of slip stitch pattern so far, although actually cabled trellis was its own thing, but also a slip stitch pattern. And they all have like the same heel, which I modify, and they're all top down, and they all have a wedge toe. So yeah, I haven't really been learning anything about socks from knitting them all, other than like what I've been sort of just teaching myself to alter them. So this is quite similar to the first pattern, the painting brick socks. And I think that they're fine. I modified them to have a slip stitch heel flap. I did mess up and I did one of them as an eye of partridge and the other one as like a normal slip stitch in the heel flap. So you can see that they're different. Goodbye, Ferd. And I did a wedge toe. There's not, I guess I just don't have that much to say about them that I haven't already said. They fit quite well. They're a little bit small, but I was thinking of giving these to my friend's grandmother as a present, and then I ended up giving her a different pair of socks. Actually, the previous less knit socks I gave to her, because these aren't done in time. I knit like from here to here on an airplane from Athens to Philadelphia, an 11-hour flight, and I knit like half a sock, if not more than half. And then I still had like 4 hours of the flight. So that was a really long flight. So yeah, these have been traveling around with me. I'm happy to have them done. This John Arbin Exmoor sock is my favorite sock yarn at this point. I really love working with it. The colors are stunning. They've got some new colors, which are really nice. I really like that it comes in 50-gram balls, because I never really I can knit a pair of socks in 50 grams. So it's really nice that I don't have to buy them in 100-gram balls, and it's not that expensive. I think it's like £9 for 50 grams, which isn't cheap, but it's not that expensive. And I think I knit those on Magic Loop. So I have this much of the John Arbin left and this much of the Woolly Mammoth. So a lot of the Stephen West socks have contrast colors. Like this was a contrast color in this pattern, I think. Well, this pattern is kind of different because you see a pretty similar amount of both of the yarns. But a lot of them have one main yarn and then one yarn that you use like 20 grams of for the whole thing. So I could use either of those yarns for another pair if I wanted to, and I will. So that's one pair of socks that I've made. After I finished those, I was on the airplane back. I guess I haven't recorded since I was away. So I went to Greece in July to visit my friend and her family. My oldest friend is Greek. She's lived in Scotland her whole life, but her family is Greek and she speaks Greek, and she goes there a lot of the time in the summer because she's a teacher, so she gets a lot of time off in the summers. So she'll go to Greece for the whole summer. And I went to visit her and her gran and her mum, and yeah, so we went to an island called Sifnos for a couple days, which is where Dua Lipa was, although we didn't know that when we booked the flight. She was there like a week before us. She was probably in much fancier places than we were, but it was really nice. Athens was having a really, really hot heat wave, and it was about 10 degrees cooler on the island, so like 45 degrees in Athens to 35 on the island, and I didn't get sunburned, which is pretty good. I wore a hat the whole time and a ton of sunscreen, and I spent sort of the hottest hours of the day inside, but we had a wonderful time. And then from Athens, there's a direct flight to Philadelphia. So that was very convenient for me because that's sort of my home in America. So I took the direct flight to Philadelphia. It was really long. And then I had 3 or 4 days in Philly. And then I went to my volunteering, which I do every year, which is in Provincetown. and I volunteer with an organization called Collage. They put on programming for kids who have LGBTQ+ parents. I have gay dads, and I had been going to the programming since I was like as young as they would allow, and now I've been volunteering for them for the past 9 years. So every year I do that, and it's always exhausting but really fun. And I was knitting this while I was there, and just in meetings and in between times. And this is just a vanilla sock, kind of. One helically 1 row stripes. Also with John Arbon Exmoor sock yarn. When I was in Philly, I got to like crack into my yarn stash. So I pulled out this sock yarn, which I had previously used in a stone knits pattern with sunflowers on it for a friend, but I'd never used the yarn for myself. I knew that I loved knitting with it. So I had a lot left over of these 2 colors. So yeah, and this is a Fish Lips Kiss heel. It's the first time I've done the heel. I think that I should have given a higher percentage of the stitches into the heel. I did half of them, but I think that it needs to be more because it's like a little dinky heel and it doesn't really cover my whole heel. So I probably should have like knit some rows beforehand and then done like 2/3 of the stitches into the Fish Lips Kiss heel. I've always felt that heel flap and gusset fit me better, but I've been knitting a lot of socks and I wanted to mix it up, so I thought that I would give it a shot. And then just a simple wedge toe. I don't remember what the colors of these are the top of my head. I think maybe the green is Aggie, and then maybe the yellow is Drumble. I think I need to scooch to the side again. I'm sorry about this, but I wanted to be a bit closer because I got a comment asking me to scooch in. So I'll show you what this one looks like on. It's a bit small. I'm on the fence between cutting the toe off. That's the best way to do it. I don't think you could see anything there. I'm on the fence between cutting the toe off, adding like, I don't know, 8 rows, 10 rows, and then re-knitting the toe, or just giving them to someone with smaller feet than me. I have very average sized feet, so there are people with smaller feet than me around. Dylan's mom, my boyfriend's mom, is very knit-worthy. She has very small feet, so maybe they would be good for her. One thing I'll say about the John Arbon Exmoor sock, and I've only had this issue in one of the skeins, but the yellow had 4 parts in the length of this one sock where all but one of the plies had broken. So I had to cut them because, you know, that would be a real weak spot in the sock. The pigeon just flew by. So I have quite a lot of ends in a sock where I should not have a lot of ends. I should have 4 ends. But there were 4 places where the yellow had just broken and I had to start again. So that was a bit of a bummer, but it hasn't happened in any of the other skeins of sock yarn that I've used. So I hope that it's just a one-off, but I thought I needed to share that. I've been knitting the second sock and just past the heel. This one is a little bit longer in the rib than the first one. I just got a little distracted. I was knitting at a fringe show. The Edinburgh Fringe is like a big festival of performing arts, and I have been going to a few shows, and I was knitting in the dark at a jazz show, and I accidentally made the rib a little bit longer in this one. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, so here's the heel that I have there, and now I'm on to the foot. So here's what I've got left of the 2 balls. I guess I would recommend the Fish Lips Kids heel if you're looking for a wedge heel, like an innovative way of knitting the short rows. I think it's a good experience. I want to play around with it a little bit more to see if I can get it to fit me properly. There's a lot of information in the pattern, which does make it a little bit hard to like dig into if you just want to knit a heel and not read 20 pages of lore. But it will be useful because maybe if I'd read it all, the heel would fit me better. I think that the heel fit is more due to the sock being a bit short than it is due to the heel, other than it should be wider. It's more due to the sock shortness. But recently I've been making my socks way too long by accident, so I was trying to correct for that and I just overcorrected, which is a bit annoying. Okay, I will show you my, a new cast on, I think. I've got 2 new cast ons. So here it is. I cast on quite spontaneously Andrea Mowry's Tessellated Pullover. It's her Rhinebeck sweater for this year, and I saw it. It came out while I was in Philly with all of my yarn, and now, since I'm not living there at the moment, every time I go there, I like get in there and I pour all my yarn out on the ground and I like organize it and I look at it, and it's really fun. Although some of it has moths in the bags, which I'll deal with when I get there. It's just a factor of life for me at this point. I'm like a little bit desensitized, so now it's easier to manage. So I'll deal with all that when I get back. There were 2 bags that didn't have any moths in them, and I was certain that I could knit this from stash, and I have been knitting it from stash. So let me show you what I've got. So here we are. I'm on the body, obviously, and the yarns that I am using are the green is a Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the color Bird Box. It's got flecks of yellow, green, and red, like the primary color, but green instead of blue. And it's like a felted yarn. If you haven't used it, feels like quite felted. It's hard to describe it. It's very airy. For the yarn that would be the spin cycle yarn in the pattern, I'm using a brown Shetland yarn. It's got a numerical color. So it's like a very melange brown, quite a cool toned brown at a distance. It's got a lot of blue in it, and it is a fingering weight, and it's gorgeous. I bought this originally because I was going to knit the Star Cardie from the Woolly Thistle, but now I don't really want to knit that, and I have a lot of this yarn. I think I have 9 balls of it, which is good because I do like it a lot. So it's being used in that. And then for my mohair, I'm using this mohair, which is just a kid silk mohair I got from an Etsy dyer called Swoon Yarns. She's based in Rochester, New York, and I had a real phase where I was just buying everything I could from Swoon. She does a lot of really beautiful cashmere, which I haven't bought any of, but because I just bought so much during 2020 that I've kind of like, I don't need any more. But one of the things I got was this. It's really pretty, like a wheat color. I think I should have enough according to the pattern, but I did not gauge swatch, which is kind of weird for me because I'm normally like really into gauge swatching. But I just didn't want to, so I didn't. And I think that mine's gonna be quite a bit bigger gauge, looser gauge than the pattern. Right now, the jumper is measuring at about 51 inches, which is 10 inches of positive ease for me. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not against having 10 inches of positive ease, but I don't know if I want to do the drop shoulder. I'm thinking of modifying it to be a raglan, but I guess I'll tell you more about that next time, because I haven't, like, I'm gonna knit up a swatch practicing the raglan decrease. Since this is mosaic knitting, every 4 out of 6 rows, you're slipping half of the stitches. So if you decrease like the raglan rate, like the rows just are set up so differently that I think I need to practice what I'm gonna do. And I think that if I do like a compound raglan, I can accommodate some of the extra width and make it look really nice. As I was saying about the drop shoulder for my Harlow, which is right behind me, I just don't know if I want to knit another drop shoulder, because I haven't really loved the way that, I guess, either of the drop shoulders that I've knit recently have fit, and I have a real hankering for a raglan. I'm itching to knit a raglan, so that's what I'm thinking. I think it would be like nice. I think that the jumper that I mentioned earlier that I test knit for Teddy's Knit Garden has a similar amount of positive ease, and I love it, and it's great. It's not raglan, but I have knit a jumper similar to this in ease, and it's been really good. So I think I'll get a lot of wear out of it. I was a bit confused. I measured my bust recently, and I am 41 inches across the widest part. I had thought that I was 45, so I was aiming for like 3 inches of positive ease, but then my gauge was bigger, and actually I guess I just made the number bigger in my head of my bust. The last time I measured it was 41 as well. There's a bumblebee at the window. A little bit of a journey. This is taking such a long time to knit. I think it's because it's mosaic, so you're slipping so many stitches, but it's really taking a long time. I like to time each like row for any given pattern. I don't know why, it's just good to have that info. And one repeat, like the 6-row repeat, which is like a light color and a dark color and the green rows in between. That takes me an hour if I'm like knitting as fast as I can. So I'm never knitting as fast as I can unless it's like 1 in the morning and I'm hyper focused, which happens and it's great. But like very rarely am I actually knitting as fast as I can. This is just a lot of work. A lot of time has gone into this baby. I've got about 15 repeats so far in the body. I think I want to get to 20. That will put it at about 13.5 inches from the underarm. And I'm expecting the raglan to be quite a long yoke distance from collar to like where the sleeves split. So that will give me, it's not gonna be cropped. I don't want it to be cropped. And I think that it will be perfect. I didn't realize until like a week ago that the shelter is actually a worsted weight and not DK like the pattern calls for. I had originally tried knitting the main fabric on a 4mm needle and it just looked bad. So I ripped it out, knit it on a 3.5 like the pattern calls for, I think. Oh, maybe you can have see it nicely in the sun. It's going well, it's just slow. And it's not like the most fun knitting experience. But what is fun, I was telling you about this a moment ago until I got distracted, is that all of this yarn is from stash, and some of it is really old stash. Like this green bird box, this is the first sweater quantity that I purchased that ended up in stash and didn't get knit. So I guess I purchased it for my 3rd ever jumper, which was going to be the Dunian by Christina Makes, I think, which was a pattern that had like you knit sideways cable designs for the sleeves and then you picked up the stitches here and cast on. And I knit like 3/4 of the sleeve part and then I just like didn't really like it. And then I left it for about 2 years pinned to a blocking mat and then unraveled it in 2020 when we had to move because of COVID. And then since then it's been in my stash. So I bought this yarn in Purl Soho in 2018, a really long time ago. And it's kind of funny because I think that the prices have really increased since then, because it says it was like, I don't know, like $9 a skein, and they're 50 gram skeins. I think it's more expensive now. But anyway, it's a worsted weight, which I didn't know. I thought it was DK, I don't know why. I've had it for so long and I didn't even think to check. So sorry, quickly, half of the balls were wound up. Half of them are in skeins. Like 1/4 of the ones that were wound up had been knit, blocked, and then unraveled. And I just didn't bother re-soaking any of it. I don't know. I didn't really care. So I've started by knitting through the ones that were knit previously, and then I'm gonna do the ones that were wound, and then I'll do the full skeins. Just because I don't have a ball winder here, so I'll put off winding them as long as possible. And I bought 10 skeins of this, so I definitely have enough. And I might not need to use it all. It is kind of dusty though, which makes sense because it's been around for a long time. So I'm really, really happy to have this getting knit up into a project. I already told you about this yarn, purchased in 2021 for the Star Cardie. Yeah, and I already told you about the mohair, which I bought for no reason, just because it was pretty. I tried to get, so according to the pattern, I should have enough mohair. However, since my gauge is thicker, I don't actually think that I will have enough mohair. So I've been trying to get a mohair that's like a sort of good match. I bought this from Knitting for Olive. It's not that good of a match. It's okay. This is putty. They have a color, oh no, this is powder. They have a color called wheat, which I think would be better. But I don't know how much of a difference you're actually gonna be able to see. These dots actually look like this more than they do like this, right? So I bought a ball of wheat from Knitting for Olive, and it arrived today, but they didn't send me the right yarn. They accidentally sent me the heavy merino instead. So, oops. Oh my God, it's really warm. Can you see how red I am? Sorry about this, like, I know I'm at the side now, but I don't know what to do. Now you can see the part of the flat I didn't tidy. Okay, that's better, isn't it? I don't know. Apologies. So this will get used. I think it's a similar weight to a sweater quantity that I have that I was wanting to get like a light color to go with. But it won't get used in the immediate future. Maybe they'll ask me to send it back. That will be okay too. Probably not though. If a yarn store sends you the wrong yarn, do you have to send it back? Don't know. So I've done 15 repeats and I think I'm gonna get to 20. I might have already said that. A lot to go on this jumper, but I'll knit the body and then I'll knit the sleeves from the bottom up, and then I will decide what I want to do for the yoke, because by that point I might have blocked my other drop shoulder, and if it turns out well, I'll just make it into a drop shoulder like the pattern calls for. But I do really like modifying patterns, so I think I would find it quite satisfying to to modify it to be a raglan. So stay tuned and you'll find out. I have a few other projects that have gotten just a little bit of work, which I will burn through quickly. This is a Manhattan hat by Tori Yu. It's a 1x1 ribbed hat. I'm knitting it with 2 strands of, it's a yarn by, it's Cricket by, I don't remember. I'll put it on the screen. And it's like a single ply, heavily tweeded yarn. It's super wash and it's beautiful. It's this sort of really interesting color. It's horrible to work with single ply because the yarn is so bumpy and thick and thin and fragile. Here. Yeah, it's just like it breaks and it gets caught on the needle and the stitch doesn't want to pull through. It's better holding it double. The color is just really stunning, and I bought a sweater quantity of it recently, not that recently, 8 months ago, when I was having a kind of bad day, and I sort of have regretted it. So holding it double and making hats has been working really well. The hats have turned out beautifully, and yeah, this is something I just take around. Like if I'm studying, I'll take it to the library and I'll knit to give myself a little break from the work I'm doing, or I'll take it to a show and I'll knit, that sort of thing. I'm not normally like at home knitting this. And it's in this bag, which I've had for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I love it. It's from Woolly Originals and it's the Scott Monument, which I have a really good view of from my window. I love Woolly Originals. I don't have any other things because this is like all I need, but it's a really good little bag. Okay, 2 more projects to show you. One of them is a new cast on, so I'll start with that. Both of my next projects are being made out of Nutiden yarn, which is unspun. This is the color Skostra. I think it's from about a year ago. It's got some plant veg matter in there. It's a really nice color, although the dye comes off on my hands. And this is the Storm Hood by Ailbiona McLochlainn. I was inspired because in the past like 2 weeks or a month, I've gone through and watched like the past 8 months of uploads from the Purl Knitting podcast. She's so nice, and she mentioned me like a couple months ago, and I thought one day I will go back and watch like all of the videos when I have a bit more mental space, and that happened, and I just have loved. It's really fun, like hoarding loads of videos so that you can. It's so satisfying to see the projects get finished like in one day for you. And she knit one of these, and it was so nice looking, and it made me want to knit one, so I cast it on. And I'm about done with the ribbing at the bottom. I'm holding the yarn double, and I'm using 3.5mm needle. I'm not loving knitting with the Nutiden for this project, but I do really like the color. It's just like a little hard on my hands. I think it'll be easier when I'm not ribbing the whole time. So yeah, I'm gonna my plan is to make 3 storm hoods in 3 colors of Nutiden. This Botanisca, which you might be able to see there. For me, my friend who I did my master's degree with, who just went back to America, I'm so sad that she's gone, and her best friend from the States who I've never met but heard a lot about. So when I visit them, we're gonna have matching hoods. So that's the plan. I ceased recording for a few hours because I had a lunch reservation that I needed to go to. If you're ever in Edinburgh, check out Tanny Modi. It's like a cafe, and they have these pancakes that have like this pistachio cream on top, and then they give it to you with like strawberries and they give it to you with strawberries and like a hot raspberry coulis, and it's amazing. And then I also got a bagel. It was so good. So yeah, I've just gotten back a little while ago from that lunch and had a very nice time. I'm sorry, Fergus. And the sun has gone away a bit, which actually maybe makes for better filming conditions, because the sun's not right in my eyes anymore, so I feel like I can actually open them properly. Fergus the cat disagrees. So I was telling you about the storm hood. Here is what I've got so far. The pattern calls for 5 inches of ribbon. I think I've got about 6 here. So I'm about to start the part where it's like, it's still in the round, but it's knit flat on the back and it's still ribbed on the front. So looking forward to that. Yeah, this is another one that I've been working on just a little bit every day and really enjoying. So I'm enjoying like its growth, and I just love the color. Look at it, it's beautiful. Can you see my cat? He's right there. He's a very silly boy. Okay, next I will show you my last work in progress, which is also in Nutiden. This hasn't got a ton of work since I last saw you. I really focused on finishing this. Oh, I might put it on because it's a bit cooler. Yeah, I've been really focusing on finishing this, and then it took much longer than I expected. So, here it is. The front and the back are the same length, but the front like really rides up. And yeah, I just feel like it kind of, I don't like this area. I feel like it's really like, I don't know. Hopefully when I block it, it'll be a little bit less like springy and have a bit more drape. But I don't like really dislike it. I just, for a project that took so much time and energy and for which the supplies were so costly, I was hoping it would be a bit more love at first cast off, bind off, than it was. So my final project, work in progress, is my Nutiden jumper. It's loosely based on the Semper sweater by the knit Purl girl, but I'm putting in a little colorwork motif of my own, which was really simple, and I'm knitting it with 2 strands of Nutiden held together. Very occasionally I'll use 3, just because sometimes I pull it really thin, or some colors are thinner than others. I've got a foreground color and a background color. The foreground color it begins like with this yellow, and then the white, and then the gray. And the foreground color changes twice as fast as the background color. So I have like a bit of a blue progression happening here, and I've been changing it 1 strand at a time, so it's getting this like really blendy look. Some of the colors are quite similar, like there's actually 3 different background colors here. They're just all quite similar, so it's not as like noticeable that it's shifting, but it is. And I really like the random look that you get with it. It's completely different gauge from, fluff in my mouth. It's a completely different gauge from the original pattern. And I just sort of did the raglan until it felt right. And I think that this is going to be a gift for my dad, but I'm not making any promises. I think he would really like this, and he's very knit-worthy. So that's my current thought. Maybe like a birthday present. His birthday's in December. So that's my thought. But I don't want to commit. I haven't told him it's for him, but I do have one of his jumpers that fits him really well that he gave to me to mend. So I have been comparing this to that jumper as I've been making it. And also I get my boyfriend to try on sometimes to see how it's fitting generally. They're not like this really a similar shape at all, but it's better than nothing. And I'm knitting this on 4.5mm needles. I think I want to bring some more of the yellows in down in the body. Most of this like color changing yellow and orange and this like scummy green is from Viravan from New to Den. And I think I got quite a lot of plates where the red and green transition into each other, so I have a lot of this like really muddy green, which I can tell that I'm like going into here. Well, I don't know if I've ever showed you the inside before. Well, I dropped so many stitches. I'll show you the inside when I don't have it on my needle and I finish the body, I think. So, yeah, I really like it. I've been enjoying the blending of the colors a lot, and it's really fun to work through my Nutagen. The colors are great, and I like just sort of knitting something kind of freestyle. I think that I would definitely knit something like this again. I might whip up a different really short color work repeat and start another one as soon as this one is finished. At least I can see myself doing that. You know, in the viewfinder, this jumper's looking really good. So maybe I do like it, I don't know. See that? That's the part that I'm not loving. But in the viewfinder, it's looking really nice. So this is my final project that I have to show you. I just did a rolled edge for the neck. The pattern, the Semper sweater, I found that pattern really hard to follow because it was so wordy. It's like every single thing is explained to the nth degree. And as someone who has a lot of knitting experience, I found that kind of exhausting to follow. But if you're a new knitter or you like that sort of pattern, then go for it. I think that it's going to fit quite well, so I can't complain about the fit at all, because I think that that's really like designed to a high level. But I don't know if I would get any more of her patterns, just because I'm finding it like quite difficult just to like know where I am and to go through all of the excess information. So yeah, although I really like a lot of the designs that she comes out with. She has like a zigzag jumper, which is really nice looking, and I really like the cable pattern that she's working on right now. So definitely someone who I think has a wonderful eye for design, just maybe not a pattern writing style that matches my knitting style. So yeah, that is my final work in progress. For some acquisitions, the first thing that I have purchased since we last spoke is what was knit into this sleeve of this jumper. I needed to buy another skein of Spin Cycle to just finish off this sleeve, and I have about 20 grams of it left. I have a plan to use up some more spin cycle that I thought would go into this jumper, but the color ended up being a bit too standy outy. So the pink matches those skeins quite well, so that will go into that project. So that is my first acquisition, mostly used up. I already talked to you about another acquisition, which is this heavyweight merino that I was sent by accident instead of the soft silk mohair. So eventually I will get the soft silk mohair. And I think I also already told you about another acquisition, which was the skein, the ball of mohair that I thought would be a match for this. It's not a bad match. I just think I can do better. And it's not like this won't get used up. So this was also an acquisition. I made a moderate purchase on the John Arbin website 2 weeks ago. I bought another skein of their sock yarn, I think in like a light pink color, and then they're having a sale on their Knit by Numbers line, which is such a good idea. I hadn't looked into it before that I made this purchase. So they have like every color comes in six different tonal variations, like from light to dark. So they've got tons of colors, and it's I think they do a number of different weights, or maybe just DK. I got DK. So I got like a medium pink, and I'm planning on making a sheer V by Jessie May Martinson, with 1 row striping this like really bright medium pink from John Arbin with the spin cycle. It's actually the color that I used for this I-cord. So it's like a light pink that goes through darker pinks, and then also occasionally just a little bit of like green or blue. So I want to do 1 row stripes. I'm just gonna grab that ball. Here's 2 balls of that yarn, so you can see what that is like. So yeah, anyway, I'm sorry, that was quite a long explanation. I'm holding it with a lace weight alpaca silk from Malabrigo. I think in the color Joy something. It's like a really bright pink that I already owned. I actually bought it to use as the contrast color for this, but it was just too bright and it stood out too much. So yeah, most of that project is from Stash, and it means I'll use up some of this very expensive yarn that I bought. And the Knit by Numbers from John Arbin was on sale. However, it said it shipped 2 weeks ago in 1 day, and I haven't heard anything from it, and it wasn't a tracked package. So I think I'm gonna email them today and ask. Yeah, that hasn't arrived yet, but I'll show it to you next time it has arrived. But I'm not casting on a new project until I finish both of the projects that I already have, because I really don't want to lug back to America yarn that I brought over here. Specifically this yarn. Like, the journey that the yarn in this project has taken. This Brooklyn tweed shelter I bought when I was living in Chelsea in New York, and then I moved it to Brooklyn when I moved there in 2019, like in the middle of 2019, shortly after I bought it, and then we moved to Connecticut for a year and a bit. So I moved this yarn to Connecticut, and then I moved to Philadelphia with this yarn, and then we moved to a different place in Philadelphia, and then I brought it here to knit. And I am not taking it back to Philly, not knit into a project. So I feel pretty determined to get this done and to get the nuded in jumper done, because if I finish that before I go back to the States and I do decide that it's a gift from my dad, I'll keep it here in like a sealed moth-proof container to give to him. So just a little bit less lugging of yarn. I will end up inevitably taking some yarn back to the States, but I don't know, it's sort of like a point of pride that I don't want either of these jumpers to be lugged back to America after being carted around so much. So I made like a calendar month in my planner, sort of like what Knitty Natty does if you watch her channel, where she like plans out her knitting for every month. And I have about 5 weeks roughly being here before I go back. So I said sort of like, well, this week I'll finish the body of the knitted in jumper and do the last 5 repeats of the body of the Tessellated Pullover, and then next week I'll knit 1 sleeve on each, and then the week after I'm traveling, so I'll cast on the next Stephen West socks and knit a sleeve maybe. And I had a lot of fun doing that. I also in that list making frenzy made a list of all of my sweater quantities that I own and like what weight they are and if I have any ideas for them, and then I put them into 4 different tiers. The first tier is like, I know exactly what I want to make, I'm desperate to cast this on, I'm so excited. The second tier was like, I have some really good ideas that I'm happy about, but I'm not decided on what I'll make. And the third tier was, I don't have any ideas, but I'm happy to have this yarn in stash. And the fourth tier is like, I don't really see a purpose for this yarn. It was either a gift or it was something that I bought a long time ago and I have it, but I'm not really sure what the fate of this yarn will be. Like if someone wanted it, I would give it away happily. So I put them all into tiers. I ended up with 12 sweater quantities in my stash, although 4 of them are knitted in. I don't know why I don't feel like that counts. It obviously does count, but so I have like 2 1s, 3 2s, 3 3s, and 2 4s. So I don't know. Maybe I'll share the sweater quantities in one of my next videos and talk about my plans. But this is like, this project that I was talking about, the sheer V, that is that's a number 1. Something that I know exactly what I want to make and that I'm very excited about. So yeah, I'm having to stop myself from casting it on because I want to finish my works in progress that I've got here currently going before I cast it on. Also, I can't cast that one on until the yarn arrives from John Arbin. We got this like mesh thing, I'm sure you can see it there. It's like Velcro and then quite a strong mesh with Velcro on the edges that you can stick up around a window, which is a barrier to stop cats from like falling out the window. Not to be rude, but Fergus is not the most graceful of creatures. He's definitely fallen down quite a few times, and we were always certain that he would go out the window if it was open. So, but it's quite hot and we live quite like high up. So I bought that, and when we put it up, and it's really nice because if I open like a couple windows on this side of the flat, you get a good breeze going. And I'm sure Fergie likes looking out the window too. Although it does make it a bit louder. I hope that you can't hear any annoying noise. So I don't think I have any other acquisitions. Really just the mohair, and then the package that hasn't arrived yet, and then the skein of yarn that I've already mostly used up. So pretty good. I'm trying to not buy yarn, especially as I am moving in a month and a half. And ooh, West Yorkshire Spinners is supposed to announce their Christmas colorway this week, so I'm pretty pumped about that. Although I didn't get it last year, but I did like it. I just didn't need any more sock yarn. But I was kind of excited to see what it will be. And then Stephen West, like since I stopped recording earlier, announced the name of his new knit along. I don't remember what it was. It was like, I should have remembered. I don't remember. Anyway, so I was thinking about whether I would knit that, and I probably will knit that, because even though I didn't finish it last year, I do always have quite a lot of fun with knitting them. So yeah, that's always exciting. It's like the memory of the autumnal excitement of the M-cow. Although I will be knitting it from stash. I hope that it's nice this year. It's not that it wasn't nice last year, I don't know. I think a lot of, Stephen West has such a specific kooky style of patterns, and now he's like so popular because he's a really cool person, but I think that his popularity is almost bigger than like the subset of people who are really into the types of patterns that he makes, which I feel like is why there's kind of a lot of negativity around the kookiness of his designs, because I don't think that he's designing them to be wearable for the everyday person. I think he's designing them to be fun and exciting. So I'm in the category of the people who doesn't love every design, but I do appreciate what he's doing, I think. And so I look forward to him releasing more information about that and seeing what I can do with it. I'm kind of hoping to get a job in a yarn shop when I go back to Philly. And I think maybe I could convince them to give me a job if I tell them that I'll knit the Stephen West shawl while I'm working there. Is that how it works? I don't know. I went in last time I was there and just inquired casually about working in the shop, and the person gave me an email, who was working gave me an email address for, I think, the owner or whoever decides the hiring, and said to send an email with some examples of my work. And I feel very confident that if they can see the stuff that I've been knitting and they have an opening, that I could potentially do well, because I made some really cool stuff that I'm very proud of. But who knows? So I don't want to jinx it, but I kind of feel like maybe like the Stephen West shawl could be a good in. So maybe I'll pick some of the yarns that I have that they sell there to knit it in. I don't know. It's fun to think about though. So I hope that you've enjoyed this quite long episode. I certainly have really enjoyed recording it, and this has grown on me. I'm seeing myself because I'm recording with the front camera, and I am liking it, so that's good. For me, I can't recommend knitting a whole jumper and spin cycle unless you've got money to burn, but it was a very fun experiment. I have like a mental image of a light green, like pastel neon green version of this, and making tracks, which is a yarn that they sell at the Woolly Thistle that from Junction Fiber Mill, has a color that's like perfect for my vision, and I'm having to restrain myself because I'm not buying sweater quantities, and I have this one already, but if you wanted to know what color I would make next if I was going to make another one, that's what I would do. I hope that you're doing well. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.